So, can you use the DJI Action 6 as a studio cam if you use the macro lens? Well, let's talk about it. So I do think you could use the Action Cam as a studio camera. However, I think, from my perspective, I would make some changes. Shooting it right now, we have it set at the with the normal lens on. At the distance I think kind of is a good frame for a talking head video, but it ends up being too unnaturally close to me. That's why I prefer to shoot it in the 2x lossless, which we'll talk about later in this video. But this to me is awkward. And so this might be an interesting and compelling fix to this solution right here where it's so close. No, this won't fix that. No, it won't, will it? But let's see what this looks like, first of all, with these settings, and then with my favorite, the 2x. And will we see any depth of field happening when we do that? I don't know. Let's figure it out. So first we take off the protector, put on the macro lens. So now we've got it set with the focus on the portrait, and that's what you should call it, not the person setting, the portrait setting. And you may be getting some depth of field in the background. You may see that there's a little bit of softness on the background of my studio here. And let's talk about that for a second. So as a PSA right now, I'm going to break the video. Whenever you're talking about the macro lens, it's not the flower, the person, and the mountain settings. That's not what those are. You've used other cameras, right? That's macro, portrait, and landscape. The mountain is the landscape. You're going to see stuff. It's just an icon to represent those settings. This is not a mountain setting. It's a landscape setting. It's not a person setting. It's a portrait setting. It's not a flower setting. It's a macro setting. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We now return to the regularly scheduled video. So now that I have it at the portrait setting, you can probably see a little bit of bokeh in the background, a little bit of blur, but again, I feel like this is unnaturally close. I don't really love having the camera this close to me. So let's change the settings up. Okay, now I've made it a little adjustment to the focus. I can't tell if it's in focus or not on the little tiny screen that I'm looking at right now. We're gonna know when I get back to studio, and this might be a colossal failure, but as you can see in this shot, I have moved the camera now to the very edge of the desk, and this is a better framing, a better distance for me. I'm more comfortable talking like this, but now it's just way too wide. You know, I don't love what's happening there. So now we're gonna try it, changing the setting to the 2x lossless. Well, I didn't realize that wouldn't be an option with the macro lens attached. The macro lens seems to disable some interesting features. I had this problem with another feature that it was disabled. It appears that the 2x lossless is not an option when the macro lens is attached. There's no way for me to use the zoom. So I was really hoping this would be I was really hoping this would work, but this is definitely, the macro lens really isn't working for me as a studio camera. So the DJI Action 6 can, but let's go back to the settings that I like, and then we'll conclude this video. So if I was going to use the DJI Action 6 as a studio camera, this is the way I would use it. So all the settings that I talked about in the other video, I'll put a link below, but I can run through it real quick. I just shoot it at 4K 30 or 4K 60. I double the shutter speed, so it'll either be a shutter speed of 1/160th or 1/120th. I like to use the D-Log color profile. I take the sharpness and what is it? I take the sharpness and the image something or other. I can't remember what it is. I'll put it on the screen to -2 for both of them. I don't mind using, for a studio, auto white balance and auto ISO. It's going to do what I need it to do, but I do limit the ISO range to 100 to 800. So those are my settings that I like for the camera, and then I put it in this 2x lossless. And you know, I really like the look of this better. If you look around the edges of the frame as you're looking at this picture, you will see that there's way less distortion in the corners. The lines are straighter, and they claim this is a lossless a digital zoom, that it is the same quality, and I feel like it really is. I have used it kind of primarily with this camera for lots of things, on even shoots for customers. I like the lossless zoom. It's more of like a 35 millimeter now, and that's a very pleasing look to me. And it gets rid of all that real weird warping. You know, when you're looking at someone who has one of these cameras and they're using it for vlogging, sometimes the corners and the outer edges of the frame can be very dizzying as a person's walking around and moving, because there's this weird warpage happening on all the sides, which is common with an action cam. But with this 2X lossless, you now have sort of what looks like a big camera body shooting, and the distortion is really reduced. So this is my preferred setting. I don't think I'll be using, I wasn't a fan of this as the studio cam setup. I was disappointed that the 2X wasn't available on this. And now, saying all this, I will say I am keeping this lens. I don't think this is a waste of money. I think there are a lot of great applications for this lens, and particularly for customer work. Being able to get that close and get some really neat macro shots, really neat. That one's for you, Hallie. Really, in a place where you're not comfortable sticking your $3,000 or $4,000 camera, that's a cool option. Obviously, you can't use it for underwater. Everything has said over and over again, this makes your camera no longer waterproof. But you know, this is a lot cheaper to replace than, again, a full frame camera body or something else, a cinema camera. So you can put it in places that you might not normally put your other camera and get some really interesting shots. I used it recently, not with the macro lens, for a customer shoot to get some of those really cool sort of Breaking Bad perspective shots. Put some of them in here now. And it was really a great addition to their overall video, just to give it a little extra pop. I would invest in one of these. To me, these aren't expensive. I know a lot of people say, well, it's an expensive accessory. $160 or whatever it is very cheap when you get into working with professional cameras. This is like, a no-brainer. So to have it as an extra asset or an extra tool in my tool bag, I'll definitely keep it. Will I use it as a studio camera? No. Now that I have the Pocket 3, that is my go-to studio camera, and I will always defer to that. But I use the Action 6s for all sorts of other things, and I have put up several videos recently where I really use a mix of the two back and forth, and the color science is very similar with them, so they're a wonderful tool to have. If I could have only one, because of the ruggedness, because of the durability, and because the stabilization is so good, I guess I would get the Action 6, because again, I like it with the 2X zoom, the 2X lossless zoom. So I would use it in a studio environment just like this, and then I can use it for everything else: underwater, throwing it into a vehicle, throw it on top of a vehicle, put it inside machinery, put it on a conveyor belt. There's so much you can do with this camera that I would say, yeah, if I could only buy one, it would be the Action 6. But I do love the Pocket 3. And for my professional work, that one gets 60% time. This one gets like 40% time. So that's my preferred for all things video. But when it comes to, if you could only buy one, I think the Action 6 is probably your best bet. Tell me what you think. Have you tried using the Action 6 as a studio camera? Do you like it? I know there's a YouTuber, Chris Meets Chris, I think is what his name is, and he loves using it as a studio camera. He doesn't mind having the camera that close. To me, that's more awkward than, you know, just using a camera in public. To walk around with the camera this close to my face that's not my jam. So tell me what you think. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if so, please like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon.